Alright, today I'm going over weeks 3 and 4 of my reverse diet series with my client Vivyen. And if you're new here, what this is basically I take you through week by week through the reverse diet that my client is going through as a way to show you how the process can work, kind of the way I think about doing things and some of the things you need to kind of factor in when you're planning a reverse diet. So I did a series like this in her initial reverse diet, which is different than this one because this is going from a cut to a reverse. The other one was kind of a longer history of yo-yo dieting, struggles with that to try to get your metabolism back into a better place. Then I took her through a series of cutting, and both of those series are playlists on my page if you want to check them out. Now I'm taking her through the reverse diet after the cut, and she wants to try to maintain her weight the best she can and keep relatively steady until we cut again at some point next year when we come back to it. Now, as far as week 3 goes, it was her period week, and if you've been following along during the cutting series, you realize her weight typically becomes elevated by a pound or two, which is not abnormal at all for women. So it's something we always have to keep in mind as you go through the process. And that can be difficult because, for one, we get a little attached to the scale more than we should in general, but then you add in the hormones and the emotions that can come with that time. It can be a bit of a struggle. So if you really struggle with seeing that scale go up, you might want to avoid the scale during that time. But if you can detach yourself from that, it's actually valuable in my opinion to keep weighing yourself, if for no other reason, just so you can see that you can't get so caught up in that number and that there's so many reasons why weight fluctuates, very little of which have anything to do with body fat. Anyway, despite it being her period week, she actually stayed almost the exact same weight from the previous week, which is obviously a fantastic sign. She did a great job sticking to her macros this week. The activity was a little bit off, as she mentioned that she kind of basically just abandoned her nightly walks that she was doing during the cut. So her steps came down quite a bit from where they were, but she also took a pretty long, extravagant walk, so her cardio was a little bit higher. But regardless, weight was steady, even on a period, so we will take it. Now, she did mention for the reverse process, she wanted to get her cardio down to around 30 minutes for the week and her steps to be somewhere around 3,000 as a daily average for the week. And we decided collectively it was probably a good idea to give her a step target at this point because without the motivation of the cut, she's just having a really hard time getting those steps in. So we figured we want to kind of ease back a little bit and not just go from a lot of steps to almost none. So I gave her a step count target of 5,000 on average per day, and we'll step that down over time to get down to 3,000. The other things that she mentioned in this check-in was that her stress was a little high, sleep was a little bit off, and she was a little hungrier than usual. And you know what, this is kind of to be expected at this stage. She's still freshly off a cut, so that's not terribly surprising. And as I mentioned last time, I would expect the hunger to be much worse than it has been, so it's actually kind of a win that she's just kind of hungry and not ravenously hungry like a lot of people are in the reverse diet. So anyway, with her weight being so stable despite having it be a period week, so her average was probably likely below that, we are probably in a safe position here to make a pretty big increase. But because she wants to stay as steady as possible and the process is going really well, I decided to make more of a moderately high increase by increasing her carbs by 10 and her fat by 2, which is a 58 calorie bump. I kept her cardio target at 60 minutes per week since she did extra last week and gave her a step target of 5,000 on average per day, looking to decrease by about 1,000 the next couple of weeks to get her where she wants to be. And like I said, we probably could have been more aggressive here, but it's kind of a balancing act between getting more calories to enjoy now, helping her feel a little bit better, a little bit faster, but also realizing the more patient you can be with the process and reasonably stick to the plan, the better off you're gonna be in the long run. And honestly, a strategy that can work for a lot of people who do a good job of sticking to the plan is to almost intentionally keep you in a deficit while increasing calories so that you actually lose a little bit of weight in the earlier stages of the reverse to kind of give you a little wiggle room for when weight starts to jump up a little bit down the road. Now, that's not really something we're doing here, but the point is if she does see a little bit of a dip back, it's only going to help as we try to move forward and she starts to gain a little bit of weight. And as we move on to looking at week 4 here, she did in fact see a dip on the scale, seeing a drop of about 1/2 pound for the week. Granted, as mentioned, a lot of this probably has to do with the period weight coming back down, but that just shows that she was down the previous week as well, and she's clearly in a great place. 4 weeks in and she's gotten her calories up 310, her cardio down by 2.5 hours while taking about half the steps. And as a whole for the 4 weeks, her weight is stable and actually technically down just a touch with body comp holding firm. She said she slept better this week, probably because she started taking ashwagandha again, one of the key ingredients in Core Hard that she stopped taking at the end of her cut. And while she also mentioned that she was hungry, it was nothing unbearable. So with that, I made a modest increase of 10 grams of carbs, which is 40 calories, while reducing her cardio by 15 minutes for the week and her steps by 1,000. Once again, given her weight was down, we could have been more aggressive than this, but I'm playing that balancing act and deciding to just stay at the more moderate, slower approach, because I've just found if you can stay diligent during this part of the process, it just reaps massive rewards down the road because it allows you to really get those calories nice and high while keeping weight pretty stable. But the thing you always have to ask is, how well are you sticking to the plan? In Vivyen's case, she's doing a fantastic job sticking to the calories, and it hasn't been an issue, so we're taking advantage of that. If you find you're in a situation where you're binging, you're overeating a lot because you have a hard time sticking to those lower calories, you might be better off increasing calories more, as it will make it feel more realistic to you, and you might actually consume less calories. Remember, it's not the target calories that matter, it's the actual consumed calories. And if you set your target too low because you're worried about gaining weight, but you continue to overeat, you'll actually gain more than if you had a higher target that you actually stick to because it's more realistic. And one of the things you might be wondering is, how long exactly do you need to reverse diet? And of course, the answer is, it depends. But if you check out this top video next, I will break down how long you should reverse diet based on your goals, your history, and your preferences. So make sure you check that out next. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll see you next time.